Alright, hey there. I'm going to step you through some of the changes that we've made to Dukes of Bavaria, improvements, updates. And then once I go through kind of all the changes and things, then I'll kind of step you through a bit of a round so that you can kind of see how the gameplay has changed, and it'll kind of set you up to be able to jump right in with the prototype, kind of having a better familiarity with the steps or the play. So first off, one of the replacements we did was the scoreboard here. So we've added a raid track, which kind of keeps track of the number of times players raids, and then that'll score. You get resources and little boons from that. We've also added the crusade timer track here. So there's 6 different locations, and you kind of proceed with the black arrows here down through the crusades. It acts as a timer, so if you ever run out of these neutral crusaders here, or you finish and complete the crusade in Jerusalem, then the game ends on either one of those conditions. The timer is kind of based on number of players. So with a 2-player game, I'm going to have to remove 10 of these. There's 5 neutral crusaders per player to start the game off. And then these locations here in the crusade have indications of, based on number of players, how many spots you fill in each of the locations. So that kind of serves as the timer for the game, and the score track and the raid track. Over here, the update that the change that we made is that these locations here now only produce 2 wood instead of 3 wood each, and so you just kind of have to Sharpie out one of the wood icons there. We've added in these kind of bonus tiles. You don't put them into your duchy, but you do gain the benefit on this. In this case, it's +1 victory point. Then that tile just kind of gets discarded from the game. Let's see here. We updated the start tile for the players. It's a 2x2 tile, but there are 5 build locations on it, or 5 locations on it, with the castle there sitting in the middle. You got a castle, you got a stone village, a wood village, a church, and then a market. The market produces gold, and so that's one way to get gold in the game. We updated the player boards. Here's a quick look at the updated player board. As you can see, the number of builds and everything are similar. We've just kind of tweaked the bonuses behind. We've added this 3rd column here, which is basically you unlock a potential additional action each round that you can use, and then if you finish building a complete row, you get to activate 2 different white squares in that row. And in the rules we'll have what each of these icons means to help guide you. So those are some of the major changes that we've made for the game. I've mentioned that we've kind of converted it into a worker placement game where you put your workers matters. To start the game off, each player has 3 little workers and then 1 big worker. And the big worker kind of acts in some ways as if it were 2 workers when it comes to capturing other meeples and so on. So let's see, let me look at my list here. I think those are most of the major changes. So as far as the basics of play go, on a player's turn, they'll take one of their workers and they'll place it out. If they want to draft, that's one of the locations they can go. They place in any one of these locations here, as they would in the previous version, with the little token, but now they're using their workers instead. So if he goes here, he'll get 1 stone, and then he'll draft these 2 tiles to put into his duchy. And again, you need to place them. This won't work. The rows do have to connect, but you could place it up here or wherever. These here are supply icons. So this village supplies 1 armor. And then over here, if you look with the exclamation mark, those are demand tiles. So this church demands 1 cloth. If you can ever link up a supply and a demand, you'll get points. The thing about the field tiles for the windmills, when you place, you're going to want to try to now place them next to villages, rather than in the old version it was trying to clump them all together, which didn't feel as thematic as we wanted it. So now a field that isn't located next to a town, if you build a windmill on it, you get a point. However, a field located next to a town, if you build a windmill on it, you get 2 points. And so that's a significant increase, and you double your points. So you really want to try to locate them next to towns. Feels a little more thematic. Once that is done, the meeple stays there, and 2 new tiles come out and fill the board there. And then it's the next player's turn. So the next player could decide to draft any one of these columns. If they draft this column, for example, and they get the bonus tiles, this means that they will immediately gain 1 additional worker off of their board. They will gain 1 victory point over here, and then they can place this tile into their duchy however they would like. And then they fill the board again. Okay, and then it becomes the next player's turn. So one other action you can do besides drafting is that you can place your worker into your opponent's duchy. So for example, if he comes over here and places his worker in this wood village, he will gain resources equal to what that village produces. So currently it produces 1 wood. So this player gains 1 wood. In addition to that, he will move up the raid track 1 spot, and the first spot on the raid track will produce an additional wood. So he moves there and he gets an additional wood for raiding his opponent. And so, but then that's his turn, and the next player then can go. Let's say that this player decides that he wants to draft the resource column. So he goes here, he'll take 1 stone. Let's say he takes, and let's say he just takes 2 stone and 2 wood. 1, 2, 1, 2. Okay. So then we go back to green. Green now has resources to build. He decides he's going to build a stone town. And so to build anything on a tile, you put your worker there. That's the worker placement for that tile. So he goes there. He spends the 1 stone needed, and then 1, 2, 3 wood to build his first town that he can place on the tile. That'll immediately score him 1 point, and he reveals a potential action that he can use. The location underneath the first town is, we call it the black market. You can lose a victory point to gain 2 wood, 1 stone, and 1 gold. So green decides, yeah, I will lose the victory point I just gained to gain 2 wood, 1 stone, and 1 gold. Okay? And so then that's his turn. When you build a structure, you immediately can choose one of the revealed white action spaces in that row. It doesn't have to be the one that you revealed, it can be any one that is currently revealed. All right, but then it goes back to yellow. Now yellow can capture, for example, the guy that is sitting in his duchy. He can do that in one of 2 ways. He can send 2 workers there to capture this guy, and this guy will go into the prison up here, and that will bump his prison track up by 1. Or instead of sending 2 guys, he could instead send his 1 grand meeple or large meeple here, and capture that guy. Same thing, goes to the prison, bumps up by 1, but he still has his 2 guys here. Okay, when you go to capture, you're placing your worker into a worker placement spot, so you can build if you have the resources, or you could simply activate a revealed white space for that type of tile. In this case, he's going to build. He'll spend 1 stone, 1, 2, 3, to build the village there. That will score him a victory point, and he chooses not to gain the additional resources. Okay. Then we go back to green. Now green decides that he is going to draft some more tiles, and he's got his large meeple. So you can even capture other opponents' meeples off of the draft board if you go with 2 small meeples or 1 large meeple. So in this case, he decides he'll go here, he'll capture this guy, his prison track goes up by 1, he gains these resources, or these tiles, and he can place them into his duchy as such. I'll just do something like that. And then more tiles get revealed. Okay, this bonus tile here means +2 to your prison track. And then, as in the old game, this is a wild tile that any one of those 3 structures that is indicated on it can be built there, and it also counts as a livestock tile. Alright, so green is done placing. Now yellow can go. Another action that you can do is you can place a worker into the market. By placing in the market, there is no structure that you can build there, but it allows you to activate market actions. You can do trades. So you can trade, and the trade ratio is 1 gold is equal to 1 stone is equal to 2 wood. Right? In this case, he decides he's going to trade his 2 stone to get 2 gold. Okay, and he can continue. He can trade as many resources as he wants on that given action. The additional thing he can do is purchase or hire 1 worker for 2 gold. So he'll spend 2 gold to gain another worker. Okay, now we go back to green. Green has no workers to place, so he is now in what is called a pullback turn. So he's going to pull all his workers back, and this is when he's also going to generate more resources based on his duchy. The first thing he does is he takes one of these neutral knights, and it places into the first spot on the crusade track here, which is Constantinople, and it covers up that first location just like that. Then he collects all his workers back that have been out doing wonderful things for him. He even collects it from the prison. It comes back to his supply. Then he generates his resources. So he'll gain 1, 2, 3 wood. 1, 2, 3 wood. He'll gain, with the town there, it doubles production. So instead of 1 stone, he's going to gain 2 stone. 1, 2. And he gains 1 gold and another gold. 1, 2. Okay? And so that is his turn for the round. Pull back, generate resources. Okay? The last action that a person can do, you can place a knight. You can send a knight on the crusades. So yellow is going to send a knight on the crusades, and he will put his knight right here, and this will give him 1 gold. He gains 1 gold, and that's it. That's all he gets, but this is kind of an area control section. So the person who, when Constantinople fills up, whoever has the most knights there will score 2 points, and then everybody that's put a knight there will score 1 point per knight that they put there. So currently, right now, yellow is sitting on 3 points in the Crusades if he wins, if he controls Constantinople. If he's the one that sent the most support on the Crusade. Okay, and then we go back to green. Now it's green's turn again, and so let's see. But those are the, I believe those are the 5 basic type of actions that you can do on, and a pullback turn. So I think I've shown you all of the basic mechanics there. Let's say that green decided to go on the crusade, and then yellow went in there with his last guy. In a two-player game, when the first 4 spots fill up, you'll treat that it means that Constantinople is full. Okay, you've completed Constantinople, and you'll score it. The next 2 spots are for 3 players, and then the last 2 spots are for 4 players. So in this case, yellow would win. So yellow would gain 2, 3, 4 points. 1, 2, 3, 4. And green will gain a lonely 1 point for his one knight that he sent to Constantinople. Let's see. So that's kind of how the Crusades score. There are 2 locations that will trigger the raid track scoring. Once Edessa fills, there's a little icon here, could be bigger, but this little cross swords icon here next to the victory point icon indicates that this will trigger a raid track scoring. All right, so this score is similar to how Nations scores books, in that in a more than 2-player, in a 2-player game, the person in the lead is going to score 2 points and the other person gets 0. But in a 3 and 4 player game, you score equal to the number of players that you are in front of. So if you're in a 4-player game and you're in the lead, you'll get 3 points. The next person gets 2 points, 1 point for the 3rd place, and 0 points for last place. Okay, and there are 2 locations. Edessa will score the raid track. So in addition to all the boons that you're getting on the raid track, you will score for being in the lead as well. When the location Edessa fills up, and then when Jerusalem fills up at the end of the game, it will score again. Let's see here. Other significant things to know about the game. We've got on the player board here, we've got this 3rd track, like I said, the 3rd column for all the buildings is when you reveal it, when you build your 3rd building in that column, you reveal a bonus action. And so once that's revealed on every turn, you have the ability, if you would like, to do 1 revealed bonus action. So if you reveal 2 or 3, you have a choice, but you're still only going to get to do 1 of them. So if you reveal the 3rd location in the towns, then you can spend, when you build a structure, you can spend an additional gold to gain an additional victory point. Just one additional gold. You can't like spend 5 to get 5 points, but you're making the town a little prettier, a little nicer, and so it's you gain an extra victory point. The windmills, when you reveal the 3rd one on the windmill, it gives you the ability to spend prisoners, basically, to reduce the cost of building structures. So you get you get a coupon, right? So if yellow, for example, wanted to build a church, generally a church costs 2 wood, 2 stone, and 2 gold, as indicated right here. But he could instead spend 1 prisoner, which would reduce the cost by either 2 wood or 2 stone. So he could spend 2 wood and 2 gold in a prisoner, and then he would be able to build that church. What he is giving up by spending those prisoners is the ability to score the prison at the end of the game. At the end of the game, so the prison track is 1, 1, 2, 2, and then it gets a little bit better, 3, 4, 5, 6 on the prison track. And so if you're hoarding your prisoners, you can score up to 6 points at the end of the game. If you're using your prisoners for work or for example with the church's bonus action allows you to convert a prisoner to a worker. So you reduce your prison track by 1 and you gain an extra worker. But when you do that, you're foregoing the ability to gain those prison points at the end of the game. And then the final spot in the bonus actions is the fortresses. Once you've revealed that, you can spend an additional gold on your turn to take, or basically deploy another worker. So it allows you to basically place 2 workers in a turn rather than 1 worker. but it costs you a gold. So that is kind of the bonus column there. And again, only one of those per turn. You can't like spend, you can't just use them all in a given turn. So it creates a little bit of a choice, which is always good in a game. And then the last column here is pretty simple. Once you've built the 5th structure of that type, you can, it says A and B, white square A and white square B, meaning you can go back and choose 2 of the 3 revealed white bonus squares and activate those. So rather than gaining just 1, you get to do 2 additional things. So this allows you to kind of chain some things together and have some productive, that feeling of more productive turns as the game progresses. Let's see what else. I think I've touched on most of the significant changes. The game itself, the feel of it feels very similar to the old game. Very streamlined. It feels that way. It just flows better. There isn't the pauses where you've got to reset the round and stuff like that. The game just keeps flowing and going through. There's that escalation and improvement of actions as you go. There's a feeling of progression with the timer and so on. We love all those changes. The last little thing we've included here is for, like I said, for those trade tiles. Let's say this guy was able to connect those 2 things. He's got a supply and a demand. He would gain a point for that. Sorry, that's green, huh? He would gain a point for that, and then he takes these and just covers those up. So, so that you know that they've been scored. It just kind of makes the duchy a little bit easier to recognize. Oh, I've already done that one, so you don't have to worry about it. All right. I think that should answer a lot of the questions as far as how the game goes. The rules obviously should help as well, but obviously feel free to contact me if you have other questions. At the end of the game, sorry, there you go. At the end of the game, this little thing right here tells you, you step through it, it tells you what you score. One thing I did forget to say is if, I'll move these out of the way, if, let's say, green was able to have a raider in yellow's duchy and was able to pull him back before yellow was able to capture him, green would get a point. So that's a little added bonus to raiding. You put that player in a position, do I want to let them get a point or do I want to take the time to capture them? And so you get that little added bonus from raiding. At the end of the game, then what you do is you go through this. Any raiders, once the game is triggered, end game, by the Crusades ending or these neutral Crusaders, the last one being placed out. And that's an immediate trigger, by the way. When the last one is placed out, the game ends immediately. When Jerusalem, or if Jerusalem is taken, the game ends immediately. But when it ends, any raiders that are left out in other opponents' duchies will score a point. You score your prison track. Whoever has the most contiguous livestock will score 4, 2, 1 in a 3 and 4 player game, or 3 and 0 in a 2-player game. Whoever has the largest duchy, meaning the most tiles in their duchy, they will score 4, 2, 1 in a 3 and 4 player game, and 3 and 0 in a 2-player game. And whoever has contributed the most Crusaders on the Crusade, 4, 2, 1 in a 3-4 player game, and 3 and 0 in a 2-player game. And then obviously, if you complete Jerusalem, Jerusalem will score, and the raid track will score again because of the icon here in Jerusalem. The player at the end of the game with the most victory points wins, as always. And yeah, I think that covers most of it. Some of the icons here on the Crusade track are a little tricky to see. I'll have to go through and reformat those. Basically, the way the raid track goes is simple, strong, a better one, and it's wood, stone, gold, and so on. And then every other one has an added bonus. So for example, the second spot here is stone and a victory point. This one up here, it's hard to see, so I kind of want to highlight it. This is wood, and then it allows you to immediately retrieve any worker that you've placed, including the one raider that you just sent out, and you can kind of retrieve them and call them back to your supply. And then stone, and the next one is gold, and this allows you to simply place a second worker, and then you go wood, and then the next one is it's take an already placed worker and send them on the crusade. So those are what and then the last spot here, only one person can occupy, and you also gain 3 victory points. So yeah, I know I said that's it, and then I added something else, but truly, honestly, I think this is it now. So, but again, if you have any questions, Josh, just don't hesitate to email, whatever, get in touch with me. We'll be glad to answer them. Thanks.